Hello, my name is Pamela. I'm 25 years old, and my days are spent in a realm of silence, conditioned air, and code flickering with shades of blue. I'm a programmer at one of those colossal tech corporations, whose name has become a household word, whose headquarters resemble cities of the future, erected from glass and ambition. My life, so orderly and logical, grew from soil that is typically called ordinary. My parents are the very essence of suburban idle. My father, whose life is measured out by insurance company policies, and my mother, for 3 decades sowing the seeds of the rational, the good, and the eternal in school classrooms. They have been married for 32 years, and they still perform this old-fashioned, harmonious dance, as if stepped out of a retro postcard depicting the perfect family. Before we continue, I'm very curious. What country are you from, dear listeners? Write in the comments where you're listening from. And now, let's continue. And then there's my older sister, Ashley. She's 29, a virtuoso in the world of marketing, and since childhood, she was stamped as the golden child. You undoubtedly know the type. Perfect report cards, a perfect smile, perfect hair falling in a silken wave, perfect everything one could possibly imagine. 2 years ago, Ashley triumphantly presented us with her new acquisition, Jason, a 30-year-old man involved in the finance sector. He was tall, slender, and possessed pleasant, regular features. Precisely the type who, on weekends, dons freshly ironed polo shirts and discusses his golf handicap with a businesslike air. However, he was invariably polite to my parents, and that was disarming. Every one of his visits to my mom was marked by a bouquet of flowers, and he laughed at my father's awkward jokes so sincerely that at first I decided he was probably all right. Ashley seemed to adore him, and isn't that what matters most? When they announced their engagement 6 months ago, Ashley plunged headlong into the abyss of wedding planning. I mean a total immersion. Her life turned into a complex system of colored folders, multi-level spreadsheets, and countless Pinterest mood boards. A complete and absolute bridezilla mode. The celebration was scheduled for the end of June, and she cherished the dream of every moment being flawless. "Pamela, you are the best sister in the world," she squealed with such piercing joy when I, moved by sisterly duty, offered to help with some of the expenses. "I know Jason and I are saving every cent for our future house, so this is really just incredibly helpful." I agreed to take on the hassles associated with the catering, and soon found an amazing high-end restaurant willing to provide exquisite treats for 150 guests. The deposit alone was $3,000. But what could I do? She's my only sister. I also paid for all the flowers, from elegant boutonnieres to lush centerpieces and hall decorations, and then ordered an incredible 3-tiered cake from the best patisserie in the city. In total, I probably contributed about $8,000 to the altar of her perfect day. 2 weeks before the wedding, on a completely ordinary day, I decided to drop by Ashley's unannounced. She and Jason were renting a charming little house in that very suburban neighborhood, saving up to buy their own nest after the honeymoon. I had texted her earlier that I might stop by to discuss the final details about the dinner arrangements, but there was no response. No big deal, I thought. Probably she's caught up in another marketing campaign. Pulling up to their house, I parked on the street and was surprised to find the driveway occupied. I recognized my mom's SUV and my dad's sedan. A strange, aching feeling pricked me. I wasn't aware of any family gathering, especially one I wasn't deemed necessary to be invited to. Approaching the gate, I heard voices coming from the direction of the patio. They must have been sitting on the deck, but something in their intonations, in the very sound of their laughter, made me slow my step and hold my breath. They were laughing, but it wasn't carefree, light family laughter. There was a different, concentrated, and caustic note in it. I don't know what guided me, maybe self-preservation instinct, but instead of calling out to them, I silently crept up to the very fence, blending with the shadow of an overgrown bush, and froze, listening. "So, Pamela has no idea," said Jason, and in his voice I clearly detected a smirk, thick and smug. Ashley immediately responded, her voice ringing with mockery. "No way! I told her I needed her for moral support during the ceremony. She totally bought it." My mom's laughter sounded approving and loud. "Well, someone has to look after those 12 children during the reception. Their parents deserve to relax." The world around me, so bright and tangible just a second ago, suddenly flattened into a resonant, meaningless plane. 12 children? my dad echoed, and his voice held only a shadow of mild concern, devoid of real care. That's a lot for one person. Oh, she'll manage, Ashley brushed off, her tone laced with indifferent ease, as if discussing the weather. The age range is from infants to teenagers. The Barneses have a 6-month-old baby. The Johnsons are bringing their 3 kids, 8, 10, and 13. And then there are Jason's cousins. It's brilliant. Come on, Jason interjected, and I heard him taking a satisfying sip of something, probably an ice-cold beer. That sound, so mundane, suddenly became offensive. Your lonely sister babysits all the screaming kids while we enjoy the party. Dance, drink, have a real celebration. My heart, frozen in icy numbness, suddenly began to beat with such force that a ringing filled my temples. They, my own flesh and blood, the people whose genes I carry, were with cold, calculating cynicism, planning to use me as free help, demoting me to the level of a living cleaning unit. Well, Pamela is the youngest of all our relatives, my mom chimed in, and her voice, always so soft, now sounded like an executioner. All the others are married, or at least in relationships. All the cousins have kids of their own now. Exactly, Ashley picked up, a poisonous sneer in her words. She's single, no boyfriend, no prospects. What else is she going to do at the wedding? At least this way she'll be useful. Besides, we save on hiring a professional nanny, Jason added, and I almost physically felt his smug grin. Those people charge crazy money for events. We're talking at least $1,000 for that many kids over 5 hours. Dad seemed to waver for a second. Shouldn't we tell Pamela about this beforehand? He muttered, a faint glimmer of conscience in his question. Absolutely not, my mom cut him off firmly, almost iron-willed. If we tell her now, she might start making excuses or try to weasel out. Mom's right, Ashley immediately agreed. It's better to spring it on her at the wedding. Once she's there, she can't say no. Besides, she should be grateful she's even invited. Jason laughed again, that nasty nasal laugh I was starting to hate with every fiber of my soul. And the best part is, while Pamela is stuck with the kids, we won't have to listen to her boring programming stories all night. God, every time she starts talking about some app or system she's developing, I want to bang my head against the wall. I literally fight to keep my eyes open. I froze, turning into an ice statue. My throat tightened in a painful spasm, and my eyes burned unbearably with oncoming tears. Jason and I had talked about programming so many times. He asked questions, nodded, and a mask of sincere interest in my work played on his face. He even once said, sighing, that he wished he understood technology better. That whole carefully constructed mimicry was fake, a cheap counterfeit designed solely to lull my vigilance. The girl needs to get out of the house more often, my dad remarked philosophically, and his words sounded like a verdict. Maybe watching all those children will awaken her maternal instinct, help her find a man. Oh, please, Ashley snorted, and a poisonous steel rang in her voice. Pamela is married to her computer. I swear, she probably dreams in code. No wonder she can't find a partner. I couldn't listen anymore. Every word pierced my consciousness like sharpened blades. My hands were trembling faintly and helplessly as I, trying not to make a sound, retreated from the fence, that flimsy boundary separating my old world from the new one. I reached the car, unnoticed, collapsed into the driver's seat, and finally let the tears flow. They streamed down my face in hot, salty rivers, washing away the last illusions. My own family, my own sister, on whom I had spent thousands of dollars and a piece of my soul, was planning to trick me into working as a free nanny at her wedding, and all of them unanimously considered me too boring, too pathetic and inadequate to deserve honesty or simple human decency. I drove home on autopilot, the city outside the window a blurred, indistinct smudge, while my thoughts feverishly raced, searching for footing. By the time I reached my quiet, sterilely clean apartment, the tears had dried, and their place was taken by something else, far more terrifying and ruthless. A cold, calculating anger, the very kind that made me a truly good debugger and problem solver. For the next week, I existed in a state of flawless simulation. I became an actress playing the role of the old Pamela, naive, compliant, and slightly nerdy. When Ashley, her voice cracking with pre-wedding stress, called to check if everything was all right with the catering, I answered her with sweet, honeyed tones. Everything's perfect, darling. Don't worry about a thing. When my mom, with feigned performative concern, asked if I needed any help with preparations for the celebration, I assured her that absolutely everything was under my complete and absolute control. And when Jason, apparently to maintain the image of the perfect future brother-in-law, texted about the upcoming bachelor party, I, overcoming an internal shudder, sent him a cheerful emoji and wished him a great time with his friends. But beneath that mask of compliance, behind the calm facade, the steel of a real plan was raging and being forged. Exactly 1 week after I overheard that fateful conversation, and exactly 7 days before the scheduled ceremony, I dialed the number of my best and essentially only friend, Emma. Our friendship, forged in the crucible of shared intellectual defiance, began back in high school sophomore year, when we were the only 2 girls in an advanced computer science class full of overconfident boys. "Hi Em, how are you?" I began, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Emma answered on the second ring. "Pamela, I need to tell you something," I exhaled, "and then I'm going to need your help." I poured everything out to her, without holding back, word for word, like a confession, recounting every poisonous fragment of phrase I had heard at Ashley's house. Emma's reaction was instant, explosive, and precisely what I had hoped for. "They are such complete assholes," she nearly shouted into the phone, and her voice rang with genuine fury. "Pamela, oh my God, I'm so angry for you. I'd drive over to that Jason right now and punch his stupid, smug face." "Calm down," I gently stopped her, feeling something resembling hope kindle in my chest for the first time in many days. "Tell me, can you take Saturday off? The day of the wedding?" "Consider it done," she replied without hesitation. "What's the plan?" For the first time in that entire week, I allowed myself a real, broad smile. "How do you feel about spending the weekend in Napa Valley?" The next morning, I woke up with a crystal clear head and a plan of action as precise as an algorithm. Emma had already sent me 3 messages with links to the most luxurious spa resorts in the area. Brewing myself the strongest coffee, I sat down at my laptop and began methodically reviewing all the emails and contacts from the wedding vendors. First on my blacklist was Chat Laurent, that very chic restaurant responsible for the catering. "Hello, is this Chat Laurent?" I said in a cold, businesslike tone. "I need to speak about the catering for the Williams-Morrison wedding this Saturday. I need to cancel the order." There was an eloquent pause. "Cancel? But ma'am, the wedding is less than a week away." "I understand. What are the cancellation fees?" I asked impassively. "Well, since it's less than 7 days until the event, you forfeit 100% of the deposit, and a 15% penalty is applied to the remaining balance." I quickly calculated in my head. I would lose the $3,000 deposit, plus about $600 in penalties. The feeling was like shedding a heavy, poisonous burden. "Worth every penny," I stated firmly. "That's fine. Please cancel everything." Then I called the florist. That was easier, as I hadn't made such a large advance payment. The cake from Sophia Patisserie, that 3-tiered monstrosity they had been working on for weeks, was the last item on my list of retribution. By noon, my mission was complete. I had successfully and delightfully buried all $8,000 invested in that hypocritical celebration. My bank account was weeping tears of blood, but my soul was finally singing with liberation. Emma called as I was packing my suitcase. "It's all set," she announced joyfully. "Friday evening, hotels booked. God, this place looks incredible. They have hot stone massages, mud baths, wine tastings, everything the doctor ordered. I got us a package deal. 2 rooms, all spa services included. I was throwing my favorite dresses, swimsuits, and comfortable casual clothes into the suitcase. The thought of a whole week away from my family, in Napa Valley, seemed like heavenly bliss. "What time should I pick you up?" Emma asked. "Exactly 7 a.m., I replied, looking out the window. "Ashley's wedding starts at noon, so I want to be long gone, far away, long before anyone has a chance to notice something's wrong." On Saturday morning, my alarm rang at 5, heralding not just dawn, but the beginning of my personal liberation. I took a long, invigorating shower, washing away not only sleep, but the remnants of my past life. I carefully styled my hair, applied makeup, not to meet anyone's expectations, but for myself, and put on my favorite sundress, the one in whose folds I always felt truly beautiful, free, and light. Then, at the kitchen table, in the silence broken only by the chirping of birds outside, I wrote a letter. I tried to be concise, but every measured phrase was meant to hit its target like a honed blade. Ashley, found out about your plan to use me as a free nanny for 12 kids, without asking me. Overheard everything 2 weeks ago. Canceled the catering, flowers, and cake. Going on vacation. Don't wait. Pamela. Emma pulled up exactly at 7 in her dark blue BMW. Her smile, illuminating her whole face, was infectious. We threw my suitcase into the trunk next to her things and set off. The drive to Napa was magnificent, as if the universe itself was blessing our escape. Hilly, vineyard-covered valleys flashed by outside the window. The weather was perfect, clear and sunny. At some point, my phone in the depths of my purse began to vibrate insistently. I ignored it, not letting anything cloud my peace. We arrived at the Vineyard Spa Resort around 10 in the morning. The place was even more beautiful than in the pictures. A breathtaking view of the mountains, perfectly manicured gardens, and an infinity pool overlooking the valley. After check-in, I finally glanced at my phone. 3 missed calls from Ashley. Without a shadow of doubt, I turned off the device and went for my first treatment. At 11:30, I was lying face down on the massage table, and warm, smooth stones placed along my spine were deeply heating my muscles, dissolving the last traces of tension. It was at this moment of blissful euphoria that I remembered. Ashley was probably already on site, in her white dress, peering in horror at the empty parking lot where the catering vans were supposed to be. I couldn't suppress a smile directed into the special face cradle in the table. By 2 o'clock, as Emma and I were sipping fresh juice by the pool, I thought the wedding hell must have reached its peak. It was time to assess the fallout. I turned my phone back on and watched with cold, almost scientific interest as the screen literally exploded with notifications. 10 missed calls from Mom, 25 from Ashley, 12 angry and desperate messages from my sister, 3 calls from Jason himself. The messages in the chat rapidly escalated from perplexed to hysterical. Where are you? Pamela, please call me. Found your note. What the hell? I dialed Ashley's number. She answered before the first ring finished. Where the hell are you? Her voice grated, cracking with fury. Hi, Ashley. I'm at a wonderful spa resort with Emma. We're just about to go for a wine therapy session. How's the wedding going? I replied in a sweet, serene tone. How's the wedding going? She shrieked. The guests are here, and there's no food. Jason is panicking. 12 kids are running wild, and there's no one to watch them. Yes, I explained everything in detail in my note, I parried. I canceled the catering when I found out I was only invited to be your free help. Pamela, I don't know what you think you heard, she began to justify herself, but I mercilessly interrupted her. I heard every word, that I'm boring, lonely, pathetic, and should be grateful just for the invitation. Ashley burst into tears, her voice trembling. The wedding is completely ruined. What are we supposed to feed 150 people? I don't know, I shrugged, though she couldn't see it. Maybe try McDonald's? They're pretty quick, I hear. Suddenly, Jason snatched the phone. Pamela, you need to get back here right now, he ordered, breathless with impotent rage. Bring food for everyone, and deal with these crazy kids. I honestly couldn't help but laugh. Jason, you and my sister are perfect for each other. You're both incredibly arrogant and self-absorbed people. Oh, and by the way, Jason, if you're so desperate for a babysitter, try hiring a professional. They charge about $15 an hour per child. For 12, let me calculate. That's about $180 an hour. Good luck. Ashley burst into tears again, but now her voice held not rage, but a panicked plea. Pamela, we didn't mean it like that. Please, I'll pay you $800 just to watch the kids. $800. For 12 unfamiliar children for 5 hours? That wasn't even minimum wage if you divided it, just pitiful crumbs thrown as a last handout. Besides, I retorted, savoring every second, I'm on vacation, and I have no intention of spending my Saturday catching your guests' bratty offspring while you all have fun. I hung up, not giving her a chance for further manipulation, and put my phone on silent mode, cutting off the nagging noise of my former life. Emma and I went for the wine therapy session, which was an exquisite symbiosis of tasting aged Cabernet and a gentle facial massage infused with grape antioxidants. However, a 10-minute lull was enough for my mother, true to her role as family arbiter, to mount a new assault. "Pamela Williams," her voice rang out, full of icy, deliberate disappointment, as soon as I put the phone to my ear. "I am so disappointed in you. How could you so vilely ruin the most important day of your sister's life?" "I didn't ruin anything," I objected, with unruffled calm. "I simply refused to be unpaid labor. You left 150 guests without food." Her voice rose to a falsetto. "Kids are running everywhere. One already broke a bottle of expensive champagne. Another is tearing decorations off the walls. The guests are in shock. Everyone's asking what happened." "Tell them the truth," I suggested softly. "That you all quietly decided to dump a dozen kids on me without even asking me. If you don't fix this within an hour, we will never forgive you." "I don't need your forgiveness, Mom. You all planned to use me. You said yourself I should be grateful just for the invitation." I hung up, plunging the phone back into silence. For the next 2 hours it vibrated incessantly on the spa table as Emma and I, immersed in blissful nirvana, chose nail polish shades. Around 8 in the evening, back in the room, I checked the messages. 52 missed calls, 26 texts, several from unknown numbers, probably from outraged relatives or guests. The messages from Ashley painted a crystal-clear picture of total collapse. "Had to order pizza and burgers for everyone. We spent $1,500 on emergency food. 4 families left because there was no one to watch their kids. Jason is getting drunk at the bar. His mother had to babysit them, and she's furious. The kids ruined Mrs. Sanders' dress. This is the worst day of my life." Messages from Mom and Dad ranged from angry tirades to pleading and outright threatening. The last one, from my father, reported that Jason's mother had publicly confronted them, foaming at the mouth, demanding to know who was to blame. And then the phone rang again. Aunt Linda, my mom's sister. Her I had always genuinely respected, so I picked up. "Pamela, dear, what happened?" Her voice sounded concerned, but without judgment. "Your mom is telling everyone you ruined the wedding out of jealousy towards Ashley." "It wasn't like that, Aunt Linda," I began, and feeling a sudden relief, poured out the whole truth to her. The overheard conversation, the treacherous plan to use me as a free nanny, all those humiliating epithets, boring, pathetic. Linda was silent for a moment, then said firmly, "Good for you, dear. They had no right to treat you like that. Enjoy your vacation." The last message from Ashley, arriving around 11 p.m., made me smile faintly. "Jason says, maybe we should move to another state? He can't live in the same city as the person who ruined our wedding. Well, let them move. It's not my problem anymore." The next few days, Emma and I spent in a state of complete, blissful harmony. We meditated at dawn yoga, greeting the first rays of the sun, immersed ourselves in new types of massages every day, and tried every spa treatment this paradise had to offer. On Wednesday, feeling completely free, Emma and I went to a bustling local fair, where we indulged in simple joys, gorged on cotton candy and fried donuts, and afterwards, in a shady beer garden, carelessly flirted with a group of cute surfers. On Thursday evening, we visited a cozy bar in the heart of the valley, where Emma enthusiastically made out with a dark-haired bartender, and I, to my surprise, danced the whole night with a witty female programmer from San Francisco, whose mind sparkled no less than mine. Saturday arrived exactly 1 week after Ashley's wedding turned into a family fiasco. We were checking out of the spa, our faces glowing not only with a California tan, but with a deep inner peace. "This was the best week of our lives," Emma stated, tossing the suitcases into the trunk. "It was worth every cent I lost on that canceled catering." On Sunday morning, I was leisurely drinking coffee in my kitchen, enjoying the silence, when a timid but persistent knock came at the door. I went and looked through the peephole. Ashley was standing on the doorstep, alone, head bowed, looking terrible and disheveled, eyes puffy from tears, hair a mess, wearing old sweatpants. I opened the door but didn't step back, not inviting her in. "Hi," she whispered quietly. "Can I come in?" "You can say what you want from there," I replied, my expression unchanged. She started crying. "Pamela, I'm so sorry. Jason and I talked all night after the wedding. We treated you horribly. I'm so ashamed. You're my sister, and I treated you like hired help. Worse than hired help. You called me boring and pathetic," I reminded her, and the words hung in the air, cold and heavy. "You laughed at me, planning to use me." "I know. I was awful. Jason was awful. We both feel terrible. I'm not ready to forgive you, Ashley. I need time away from all of you. Respect that. She nodded silently, turned around, and left, still crying. 3 days later, my parents showed up on my doorstep. I mentally prepared for a second round of emotional blackmail, but they managed to surprise me. Mom spoke first, and her voice lacked its usual haughtiness. "We're very sorry, Pamela. We shouldn't have spoken about you like that. When Jason was mocking you behind your back, I should have defended you. You're my daughter. I failed you." "I understand why you left," Dad added, not looking me in the eye. "We deserved it. You told Aunt Linda I ruined the wedding out of jealousy and spite," I countered. Mom's face darkened with shame. I was angry and embarrassed. But that's no excuse. "I'm taking a break from this family," I stated firmly. "I need space." They left without argument or reproach, which, honestly, surprised me. After that, life settled into a calm, measured rhythm. I immersed myself in work, hung out with Emma, and consciously avoided family calls. No drama, no burdensome obligations, no one calling me a nerd behind my back. 3 months passed. I started dating that programmer from the bar. Her name was Maya, and it turned out she also lived in the city. Everything was good, surprisingly good. And then Ashley texted me. "I'm pregnant." Despite everything, somewhere deep inside, I felt a spark of joy for her. A baby is big news. I sent her a kissy face emoji in response. She replied instantly. An hour later, Mom called. "Did you hear the news from Ashley? We'd like to have a family dinner to celebrate. This Sunday, at our place, at 2. Will you come?" I thought about it. 3 months was a decent break, and the news of a baby, it changed everything. "I'll be there," I said. Sunday evening came faster than I expected. I sat in the car outside my parents' house, gathering my courage for 5 long minutes to get out and go inside. Maya had offered to come with me for support, but I declined, feeling I needed to take this step alone. She understood. That's one thing I liked about her, her ability to respect my boundaries. Taking a deep breath, I finally approached the familiar front door and knocked, feeling my heart pounding somewhere in my throat. Mom opened it almost instantly, as if she had been standing right there the whole time, peering through the peephole or window in tense anticipation. "Pamela, you came," she exhaled, and her voice held notes of genuine relief mixed with noticeable nervousness. The house was filled with the thick, soul-warming aroma of a pot roast, the one I had loved since childhood. In the living room, my father, seeing me, awkwardly rose from his armchair and waved, his usual reserve seeming touching at that moment. Ashley and Jason were sitting on the large sofa. My sister immediately jumped up, impulsively, as if about to rush into an embrace, but froze halfway, restraining the first impulse. Jason remained seated, but gave me a short, almost businesslike nod. The atmosphere in the room was so thick and tense, you could cut it with a knife. Everyone present was trying so desperately to act natural that the forced effort created the opposite effect, making everything piercingly awkward. I noticed that under her flowing blouse, Ashley already had a small but distinct baby bump. She looked peaceful and truly beautiful, with that pregnancy glow people often talk about. Jason placed a protective hand on her back, and now they looked like a real, established family couple, not the frivolous partygoers they had seemed before. During dinner, the conversation was stilted, revolving around safe, mundane topics. They were converting Ashley's old craft room into a nursery. Jason's mother was enthusiastically knitting tiny blankets. They didn't know the baby's gender yet, but were going to find out at the next doctor's appointment. Only when dessert was served did Jason clear his throat and, for the first time that evening, looked directly at me, not averting his eyes. "Pamela, I owe you an apology. A real one, not like how I scolded you on the wedding day." I remained silent, not making it easy for him, letting him find the right words. "I was an asshole, plain and simple. You were always kind to me, genuinely interested in my work, supportive of my relationship with your sister, and I laughed at you behind your back. That was disgusting of me, yes. And your job? It's not boring. I was just too stupid and," he hesitated, "too insecure to admit I hardly understood any of it. That's my fault, not yours." This admission stunned me. I hadn't expected such depth of self-reflection from him. And trying to trick you into babysitting was despicable. We should have hired professionals from the start. You're not our servant, you're family. Ashley silently squeezed his hand in support. It was clearly her initiative, but the words sounded sincere. "I appreciate you saying that, Jason." Mom poured coffee, and the conversation drifted to more neutral topics. Dad asked about my work, and this time, when I talked about the new app my team was working on, everyone listened attentively, without the usual bored look. Jason even asked a couple of clarifying questions that showed he was really trying to understand. As we started clearing the table, Ashley pulled me aside in the kitchen. "I know we have a long way to go," she said quietly, "but I want my child to know his Aunt Pamela. I want you to be a part of his life." Those words touched me deeper than I could have anticipated. The anger of the past months had been my armor, but the thought of the baby, it had a strange power to shift perspectives. "I want that too," I admitted. At that moment, Mom came into the kitchen with an armful of plates. She set them in the sink and looked at both of us. "I failed both my girls," she suddenly said, and her voice quavered. "I pitted you against each other, instead of valuing what makes each of you unique. Pamela, you are smart, independent, and truly kind. Ashley, you are creative, sociable, and incredibly driven. I should have been proud of you both, not compared you." It was the most honest and poignant admission I had heard from her in years. "Thank you, Mom," I said quietly. Over the next few months, our relationship slowly, like a fragile plant pushing through cold, hard soil, began to gradually heal. And this process was by no means instant or easy, as it consisted of many awkward pauses, carefully weighed phrases during cautious conversations, and the constant but necessary testing and subsequent strengthening of the personal boundaries I had set for myself. But when Ashley went into labor in March, I was the second person she called, right after Jason himself, and I held my tiny nephew for the first time when he was just 3 hours old. He was so wrinkled, helpless, and absolutely perfect, while Ashley, exhausted from childbirth, was radiant with happiness. Jason was on the verge of a complete nervous breakdown, and my parents, standing nearby, were crying unabashedly. "We want you to be his godmother," Ashley whispered, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. "If you want to, of course." Jason just nodded silently, adding, "You're the best choice we could possibly imagine." 6 months later, during the christening ceremony, I stood by the font, carefully holding my growing nephew, who was curiously grabbing my hair with his tiny but surprisingly strong fingers, while Ashley and Jason stood beside me. My parents watched from the front row with boundless tenderness, and even Emma, present in the church, gave me a thumbs up from her seat. That wedding disaster was hardly remembered anymore, except as an ironic family joke that had become part of our shared folklore. "Remember how those 12 kids caused chaos at the party?" Dad would sometimes tease, and we would all laugh together, as the story had turned into a kind of legend that Aunt Linda especially enjoyed retelling, always adding how I had stood up for myself back then. Jason and I, having gone through the crucible of mutual resentment, finally found a fragile balance in our communication. We never became close friends, but we now learned to sincerely respect each other, and he even signed up for online programming courses, wanting to understand my work better, while I, in turn, showed genuine interest in the complex world of finance he navigated so confidently. And it turned out we were both brilliant in our own ways, just in completely different fields. Ashley and I now talked on the phone at least twice a week, and although the main topics were, of course, the baby's milestones, we began discussing something much more important, real, deep things that concerned us both, and our relationship acquired a depth and sincerity it had never had before, because the necessity that had forced us to see each other without pretense, with all our flaws and weaknesses, had somehow truly brought us closer. "You know," Ashley said once, watching me voluntarily and happily fuss over her son, "that awful wedding disaster might have been the best thing that ever happened to us." She paused, looking me straight in the eye. "It forced us to stop pretending to be the perfect family and finally start talking to each other honestly." And she was absolutely right. That fake, performative politeness that had hidden real feelings for years vanished without a trace, giving way to something perhaps more awkward and imperfect, but incredibly honest and strong. And now, when we disagreed, we discussed the problem openly, instead of smiling to our faces and gossiping behind our backs. "Next time," I said, looking at her smile, "let's just hire a professional nanny right away, okay?" "Oh God," she laughed in response. "Yes, absolutely. I'll never make that mistake again." My nephew gurgled happily in my arms, and I thought about how different, full of real understanding and acceptance, his life would be. He would grow up in a family that had learned through bitter experience the value of respect, the importance of personal boundaries, and the healing power of honesty. In a family not perfect like a magazine picture, but authentic, real, and in that lay its greatest strength.